I hadn't been home in 2 years, not since I left Tennessee for grad school in Washington. Between school, internships, and a breakup I didn't handle well, I'd made every excuse to avoid the trip. But as Thanksgiving approached, the silence between me and my parents felt heavier. I needed to see them, and maybe prove to myself I still belonged somewhere. I packed my 2006 Toyota 4Runner the night before I left, made sure my gas can was full, and loaded up a thermos of coffee, a box of protein bars, and enough old CDs to survive the drive. It was a long haul, almost 30 hours if I drove straight through, but I planned to make it in 2.5 days. If I stuck to the major highways and didn't stop too long, I'd be home before Thursday. The first day was uneventful. Foggy Seattle morning gave way to rain, then sun by the time I crossed into Idaho. I drove through golden fields and gray rock outcroppings and slept in a cheap roadside motel outside Twin Falls. I felt good, almost like myself again. Day 2 started off normal too. Somewhere in southern Utah, my GPS offered me a new route, cutting through back roads and skipping Salt Lake City traffic. It shaved off over an hour. I glanced at the map. A town called Ash Creek sat roughly halfway through the detour. The name rang a bell, but I couldn't place it. Maybe I'd passed through it on a family road trip as a kid. Curious and eager to keep my timeline, I accepted the reroute and followed the signs away from the interstate. At first, it wasn't so bad. The road narrowed and twisted through rocky hills and groves of dry pine. I passed abandoned barns and a scattering of shuttered gas stations. There was no cell signal, but the GPS kept chirping instructions every so often, so I kept going. Then the fog rolled in. It wasn't like normal fog, it came from nowhere, sliding in like a curtain and clinging to the trees and road. Visibility dropped to about 10 feet. My headlights just made it worse, illuminating the particles and making the world ahead look like a static-filled screen. I slowed down. The road felt bumpier, less paved, more gravel than asphalt. Still, the GPS insisted it was only 16 miles to Ash Creek. I passed a car on the side of the road. It looked recent, a red SUV, maybe a Subaru. Its driver's door was open, but no one was around. I slowed, hesitated, and called out through my open window. No answer. Something about the way the vehicle sat, tires angled slightly toward the ditch, a child's toy still clutched in a car seat in the back, set my teeth on edge. I drove on. The forest pressed in, thicker and darker. Pines gave way to oaks, black and skeletal. The air smelled acrid, burnt leaves and something coppery, metallic. I thought I saw a structure through the fog. A church, maybe. Just a flash of gray steeple and broken windows before the mist swallowed it again. I flicked the radio on for distraction. All I got was static, then a whisper of violin music. Haunting, slow, and deeply wrong. It was out of tune, and beneath it I heard breathing. Shallow, wet breathing. I shut it off. The road ahead had changed. The trees were wider apart, and the mist hung lower. Shapes darted at the edge of my vision. Quick flashes of motion, too fast and smooth to be animals. I stopped the car and leaned forward, staring. That's when I saw one fully, for the first time. It stood just beyond the edge of the mist, a tall, emaciated thing, almost human in outline but wrong. It had no face, just a long, oval depression where features should be. Its arms were too long, dragging through the leaves. Its head tilted as if it could see me. Then it dropped to all fours and sprinted into the fog with impossible speed. I slammed the car into drive and kept going. The GPS recalculated. "Turn left in 800 feet, it said cheerfully. The road narrowed again, down to a single-lane dirt path. Twisted branches arched over it, forming a tunnel. I stopped at the junction. My heart said turn around, but the fog behind me looked thicker, and the GPS still showed the shortcut continuing forward. I hesitated, then drove in. This path was worse. Trees had grown into the road itself. Piles of debris, branches, old crates, even a shattered television clogged the shoulders. I weaved around them slowly. I passed more cars, at least 6, all abandoned. One was an ancient pickup. Its cab collapsed inward like something had crushed it. Another had blood smeared on the inside of the windows, long hand-shaped streaks. Still, I kept going. I told myself I'd find a clearing, somewhere to turn around. Eventually, the path opened into a clearing, what might have once been the town of Ash Creek. It was barely there anymore. Buildings stood in various states of decay, collapsed roofs, leaning porches, doors swinging open into black interiors. One store still had a sign that read Mercantile, though the letters were sun-bleached and falling off. Another was clearly a schoolhouse. A rusted tricycle sat on its porch. But there was one house, just one, that looked intact. The paint was faded, but the windows weren't broken. The porch light was even flickering. I pulled over, engine still running, and stepped out. Leaves crunched underfoot. The fog had lifted slightly here, giving the town a dreamlike glow. I approached the house slowly. Each step felt heavier. My ears rang. My breath puffed out in visible clouds, even though the air wasn't cold. When I reached the door, it opened by itself. Inside, it was quiet. Clean. Dusty, but not abandoned. The air smelled like old wood and something else. Something sweet and cloying. I stepped into the living room. There was a fire burning in the hearth, though there was no heat. A photograph sat on the mantel. A family of 4. Their faces were scratched out. Then I heard it. Footsteps upstairs, slow, deliberate. I backed toward the door, a creak behind me. I turned and saw them. On the stairs stood a figure. Its head was tilted, hollow depressions where eyes should be, a mouth that was too wide, stretched in a silent howl. I ran. I slammed the car into reverse and backed into a street sign. The creature sprinted onto the porch and leapt, landing hard on the hood with a screech that sounded like metal tearing. Its claws tore through the windshield. I floored it. The thing clung to the hood, shrieking until a turn in the road flung it off into the trees. I didn't stop. I didn't breathe. I sped down that twisting road, dodging abandoned cars, the radio now filled with static and whispers. More of the creatures poured from the fog, some running alongside me, some leaping onto the roof, clawing at the doors. One screamed in a chorus of children's voices. My vision blurred. I struck something, hard. The car flipped. I remember spinning, glass flying, the crunch of metal. Then, darkness. I woke up in a ditch. It was morning. The fog was gone. My car was a wreck. The roof had caved in. Blood smeared the interior, but I wasn't seriously injured, just cuts and bruises and a pounding headache. I limped up the road, every step agony. No signal, no signs, just endless forest. I walked for hours. The sun hung low. Then I heard it behind me, a low, rattling breath. I turned and saw nothing, but the air had changed, cold, still. I ran, limped, really. Eventually, I reached the highway. I collapsed in front of a passing semi. The driver nearly ran me over. They said I was lucky to be alive. I told them it was a wrong turn, a crash, nothing more. I never told anyone about Ash Creek, but I still have nightmares, still hear the breathing in the walls when I'm alone. And sometimes when I'm driving through fog, my GPS tries to reroute me back to Ash Creek. I never let it, but I know someday I might make the mistake again, and next time, I don't think I'll come back. They say every miracle demands a sacrifice. That was what the old man told me anyway. He had long gray hair that fell in greasy strands over his face, and his eyes, one cloudy, one sharp as glass, never blinked at the same time. His breath smelled like spoiled cloves and moldy parchment, and his hands trembled as he pressed the charm into my palm. "You don't give it away," he rasped. "You pass it on." I didn't understand, not at first. His voice was like the creak of a dying tree. Dry, ancient, bitter. He had no name, or at least not one he offered, and I didn't ask. Something about him made you think twice before speaking out of turn. Someone must take the weight, he said, and they must deserve it. The pouch was rough and lumpy, like it was full of seeds or teeth. It had a stink to it, earthy and old, like something that had been buried too long. You'll know who it is, the one who haunts your breath, who tastes like bile in the back of your throat, the one whose suffering would make you smile. I didn't want to smile, I wanted to live. It had been 10 months since my diagnosis. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. Inoperable, untreatable, according to the second opinion. The third oncologist was kinder. He offered clinical trials and hope, but only the kind designed to soften the blow. "I'm sorry," he'd said, tapping his pen against the clipboard. "It's aggressive. We're talking months." My husband, Dean, had squeezed my hand so hard I thought he'd break it. At the time, I thought it was from grief. Now, I think it was guilt. He was gone within 3 months. Packed up his bags while I was sleeping off chemo, left me a note on the fridge like a coward. He'd met someone else. Her name was Bethany. Of course it was. I used to joke that he had a thing for basic white girls with gym memberships and 2 perfect teeth. Bethany was an ICU nurse at the hospital. I'd seen her once in the hallway, tall, tan, always smiling. Dean had once introduced her to me casually, saying she'd been really helpful. She waved and said she was sorry about the diagnosis. She smelled like jasmine and hand sanitizer. 2 weeks after Dean moved in with her, I found out she was pregnant. The news came from mutual friends. They didn't mean harm. They didn't know how deep it cut. They thought maybe it would motivate me to keep fighting. But there's no motivation in watching the life you wanted built with someone else. I had always wanted children. Dean and I had been trying before the diagnosis. I even kept a drawer full of little onesies, untouched. Now it felt like a cruel joke. It was a friend from my support group who told me about the man. His name was Linda. 63 years old, breast cancer survivor. She wore silk scarves like royalty and talked about death like it was a bad dinner date. We weren't close, but I'd mentioned, through tears and pain pills, how unfair it all felt. How Dean had left. How Bethany was glowing with the child that should have been mine. Linda gave me the address on a sticky note. "It's insane," she warned, "but it worked for me." When I asked what worked, she only smiled. "You'll understand." The house was in a part of town people don't talk about. Crumbling sidewalks, buildings with their teeth knocked out. The paint was peeling off the old row house like it was trying to escape. Inside, it smelled of old firewood and boiled roots. The old man didn't speak when I entered, just motioned for me to sit. He stared at me with that mismatched gaze, one eye cloudy and wandering, the other sharp and still. "I want to live," I said. He only nodded. "Then someone must die." I slept with the pouch around my neck, just like he said. It was heavier than it looked, as though it carried gravity inside. "Before you sleep," he had told me, "truly name the one who deserves your pain." It should have been Dean. He had abandoned me when I needed him most, left me to die alone while he played family with someone else. But I couldn't bring myself to hate him entirely. It was Bethany. It was always Bethany. I imagined her sleeping next to him in soft white sheets. I imagined her humming lullabies to a child that should have been mine. I imagined her hands touching my husband, no, my former husband, without shame. I whispered her name into the dark, and I dreamed of flames. The next morning I woke up clear-headed. Not just better, different. My bones didn't ache. My stomach didn't churn. I didn't throw up bile or blood. I breathed without pain. I felt like I'd been unplugged from a decaying machine. The pouch was gone. Not just empty. Gone. That same day, I received a call from a friend. "You heard about Dean?" Number I hadn't. There was an accident. His girlfriend, Bethany, there was a carbon monoxide leak. She didn't make it. Her voice was full of shock. She was 6 months pregnant. Dean didn't show up to my house for weeks. When he did, he looked like a ghost in his own skin. Pale, lost, thinner than I'd ever seen him. He didn't cry when he told me. He just sat on my porch and stared into the middle distance, like he was waiting for permission to vanish. "I should have never left," he said. I didn't say anything. I was scared. I thought, maybe if I started over, I could make the pain stop. I still said nothing. "I miss you," he whispered. And for a moment I missed him too. But I remembered Bethany's face, her smile, her kindness, her belly full of possibility. "I'm not yours anymore," I said. And I meant it. 3 months later, my oncologist declared me in complete remission. "There's no sign of disease," he said, eyes wide behind his glasses. "None. It's like it just disappeared." People called it divine, a miracle. Strangers prayed for me. My photo ended up on a Facebook page called Healing Through Hope, but I knew better. Miracles have price tags. It's been 5 years now. I'm married again to a man who gardens, reads poetry, and never raises his voice. We live by a lake. We have a daughter named Iris. She has my eyes and my husband's laugh. Every time I hold her, I feel the weight of what I stole. Bethany's ghost has never visited me, but I sometimes dream of the child, a boy with gray eyes and a mouth that doesn't move. He never speaks, just watches me from the edge of sleep. Sometimes I wake up crying. I tell myself it was the cancer, that I was desperate, that Bethany was complicit in my pain. But deep down, I know I traded 2 lives for my own, and that debt doesn't vanish. Last week, I found out my younger sister has lupus. It's progressing fast. She's only 30. She's terrified. She's asking about clinical trials. She's trying everything. I see the desperation behind her smile, just like I used to wear. She doesn't believe in magic. Neither did I, but I still have the address. I keep it in a drawer. The sticky note from Linda, now faded and crumpled, like an old prayer. I've been thinking about giving it to her. After all, we all hate someone. And I wonder who my sister dreams of when she cries herself to sleep. Because the man in that rotting house is still waiting, and he never forgets a bargain. I wasn't even supposed to take this job. 3 days ago, I was still unpacking boxes in a town I didn't know the name of until a month ago. My sister called it a fresh start, but that always sounds more hopeful than it really is. I moved west to escape a string of things I don't want to talk about, mainly mistakes. The town is small, coastal, and quiet. Nothing too charming about it, nothing too ugly either, just enough to disappear into. The apartment I ended up in is nice enough. It's part of an old resort complex that got converted into long-term rentals in the off-season. It's a sprawling property with one of those 80s-style lagoon pools that snakes around fake rocks and waterfalls, with glowing blue lights that make the water look deeper than it really is. The leasing agent told me the pool was closed to guests for now, but I saw people in it that same evening. Teens, mostly, splashing around under the dim lamplight. The next day, there was a printed sign taped to the clubhouse door. Pool closed after 8 p.m. Violators will be escorted off premises. Nothing official looking, just a piece of paper with thick black text and packing tape corners. That's when I first saw Gary. Gary is the on-site security guard, or more accurately, he runs security for the entire complex, which includes the pool, the office, and the attached maintenance buildings. A former Marine turned small-town rent-a-cop, at least from the look of him. He's in his late 60s with a jaw like a bulldog and eyes that never seem to blink. I only spoke to him because he was standing outside my building when I came back from the grocery store. He nodded once, like he'd been waiting. "You live in 3B?" I hesitated. "Yeah. You need work?" It wasn't what I was expecting. "Not necessarily," I said, lying because my job search had been going nowhere. I hadn't even applied to anything in days. "Why?" He jerked his chin toward the clubhouse. "Night guard, $12 an hour, cash. You sit on your ass from 8 to midnight. Make sure no one hops the fence into the pool. That's it." I wanted to say no, but I didn't. The job started that night. Gary handed me a lanyard with a key to the pool gate, a small flashlight, and a printed sheet of rules. He emphasized 2 of them before I could even skim the page. 1. Lock the pool gates at 8 o'clock sharp. 2. Do not, under any circumstances, unlock them until 12:01. He pointed to a faded poolside lifeguard chair, the kind that creaks when you shift your weight in it. You sit there, you watch. If someone gets in, don't try to stop them. Just call me. Got it. I nodded. That first night was uneventful. I kicked out a couple of teenagers who tried to sneak in through the side gate, and that was it. The second night, same thing. But the third night, things changed. It started at 9:07 p.m. The water started rippling. There was no wind. The air was completely still. The leaves on the palm trees didn't stir. But the water moved, gently at first, like someone had just jumped in and disappeared beneath the surface. I stood up from the lifeguard chair and pointed my flashlight toward the center of the pool. Nothing. No shape, no shadow, just soft blue ripples radiating outward in perfect circles. I sat back down and told myself it was nothing. At 9:14 p.m., I heard the voice. Help, please. It was a little girl, soft, hoarse, like she'd been crying for hours. I stood again, scanning the pool deck. Nothing. I called out, "Is someone there?" Nothing. Then, splashing. Hard, frantic splashing, like someone was drowning. I ran to the pool's edge and aimed the flashlight into the water. There she was, a girl, no older than 7. Her long black hair spread around her like a halo. She wasn't struggling, just floating, face up, her mouth open in an almost smile. I dropped the flashlight. My heart went sideways. "Hey, what the hell are you doing in there?" She didn't answer. Her eyes were wide open. She blinked once, slowly. "Get out of the water." Still nothing. I reached for the master key on my lanyard, ready to unlock the gate and yell for Gary, but as soon as my hand touched the metal, the girl vanished. Not swam away. Vanished. The water went still. I backed up, heart hammering. I turned on my heel and ran to the clubhouse door. Locked. I fumbled with the key, tried both locks. Nothing. The same key that opened the gate now turned in circles, not catching on anything. That's when the laughter started. It echoed from every direction, wet and choking and too loud. Not giggling, full on, gasping howls of laughter. I dropped the key, and from the far end of the pool, the girl stood up in the shallow end, only her head and shoulders visible above the water, her eyes glowing faintly blue, like the underwater lights. "Don't leave," she whispered. My feet froze. "Please, don't leave me alone again." I couldn't speak. "You can help me, I know you can." Then she smiled. Not a little girl's smile, a split-faced, too wide, too sharp smile, her mouth stretched like skin peeling open. I stumbled back into the guard chair, fumbling for the flashlight. Gone. It must have rolled into the pool. The light beneath the water flickered, then died. Complete darkness. When I looked again, she was gone. Midnight came like salvation. At exactly 12:01, the gates clicked. Unlocked. I ran. Didn't even lock the gate behind me. Gary was waiting on the clubhouse steps. He didn't say anything, just handed me an envelope of cash. "I guess you saw her." I nodded, unable to stop shaking. He sighed. "You coming back tomorrow?" I don't know why I said yes. Maybe it was the money. Maybe it was something else. Night 4. I sat on the edge of the pool with a notepad. This time I wanted answers. She came earlier, 8:43. Rose from the deep end like a bubble breaking the surface. Silent, just watching. I forced my voice to stay calm. "What's your name?" She didn't answer. "I want to help you." She cocked her head. "You want to help me?" "Yes." "Then stay." She disappeared beneath the surface. I waited, shivering. When she returned, she was closer. "I used to live here," she said, "a long time ago." "What happened to you?" Her smile faded. "I drowned." "Why?" "Because my dad locked me in." My breath caught. "You drowned in this pool?" She nodded. "They forgot I was here. He locked the gate. Mama was asleep, and I slipped, hit my head. The water was so warm at first. But then I got cold. I couldn't move. I wanted to cry, but I didn't know if I could trust her. "What's your name?" She looked up at me. "I don't remember." "You told me you wanted help. What do you want me to do?" She smiled again, smaller this time. "I want to go home." "Where's home?" "In the drain." She pointed to the center of the pool. I followed her gaze and saw something I hadn't before. A square of black tile, darker than the rest, almost like a hatch. I stood up and backed away. She watched me go, and then she sank silently, arms outstretched. Gary didn't show up that night. The clubhouse was locked, no light on. I didn't sleep. At 4 a.m., I walked back to the pool. The gate was wide open, the water calm. A single pair of wet footprints led from the edge of the pool to my lifeguard chair. I haven't seen Gary since. I don't know what's waiting for me tonight. But I'm going back. Not for the money, not even for answers. I think she's still there. And I think I'm the only one left who knows. If you find this, don't come looking for me. Just drain the pool. Burn the drain. And whatever you do, don't smile back. They told me writing it down would help. I don't think they understand that remembering is the worst part. It's been 4 days since they pulled me out of the storm drain. 4 days since they wheeled me into the trauma ward with shattered ribs and a collapsed lung. 4 days since I screamed myself awake from the same nightmare I keep returning to. The one that isn't a nightmare at all. It happened last weekend. We were supposed to be filming a stupid YouTube urban exploration video. I never wanted to go, but peer pressure's a hell of a thing when your friends outnumber you. There were 4 of us. Me, Chris, Liv, and Jonah. Chris was the ringleader, always chasing clicks. He'd found this place online, some half-demolished water treatment facility at the edge of Shale Creek. No official records, nothing in the city archives. Apparently, it had been condemned decades ago, fenced off, forgotten. Perfect clickbait. We arrived around 4 p.m. The sky was already heavy with clouds, and the place looked like something pulled from a horror game. Chain-link fences warped by rust, warning signs dangling by zip ties, graffiti crawling across concrete walls like fungus. Chris was hyped. "This is it, guys. No one's been here in years. We could be the first." I should have said something. I should have walked away. But I didn't. We ducked through a hole in the fence, and it felt like the air shifted as we stepped inside, like we'd crossed some invisible boundary. The facility was worse up close. Collapsed walkways, shattered windows, entire walls caved in like the building had been kicked by some invisible force. We explored for a bit, cracked jokes, took some B-roll. Liv was unusually quiet, always a bad sign. She said the place felt wrong. She was right. Around dusk, we found the access tunnel. It was tucked behind a rusted metal door, half sunk in the ground and covered in ivy. It shouldn't have opened, but it did, the lock long since eaten away. A narrow staircase led down into pitch black. "Come on," Chris said, already descending. "This is where it gets good." None of us wanted to be the coward, so we followed. I remember how the air changed as we went down. It got thick, stale, damp, metallic, like breathing through a rag soaked in blood and mildew. Our flashlights barely cut through the dark, and the concrete walls bled rust down their sides like tears. The stairs ended in a tunnel. Pipes lined the ceiling, leaking steadily into ankle-deep sludge. We wandered for what felt like hours, filming everything. The signal died after the first few turns, and I started to feel like we were walking in circles. That's when we heard the noise, a scraping like something sharp being dragged across concrete. Then silence, then something wet slapping the tunnel floor. "What the hell was that?" Jonah whispered. We stood frozen. Liv's flashlight flickered. In that brief pulse of darkness, I swear, I saw something move at the edge of the beam. Something tall, something bent wrong. We should have turned back. Chris went first. "Probably a raccoon," he said, trying to laugh. "Let's check it out." Jonah stayed with Liv. I went with Chris. I didn't want to split up, but I was too afraid to be alone. We followed the sound deeper into the tunnels. The air felt like it was pressing in on us, dampening every footstep, every whisper. Then the floor changed. The concrete ended, replaced by a slick black substance I couldn't identify. It squelched under our boots and smelled like rot and ammonia. We came to a chamber, wide, circular, lit only by our flashlights. In the middle was a pit. Not a mechanical feature, not a drain, a literal pit bored into the ground like something had clawed its way out from below. It was about 6 feet wide and surrounded by deep scratch marks. Chris moved closer. "Holy shit," he breathed. "Is this organic?" That's when it screamed. Something erupted from the pit. Long arms, gray skin, no eyes. It moved like it had too many joints and none in the right places. Its mouth split down the middle like torn cloth, revealing rows of twitching black teeth. Chris didn't scream. He didn't even have time. It grabbed him by the torso, pulled him in like he weighed nothing, and vanished into the hole. The silence after was deafening. Then came the chewing. I ran. I didn't look back. I didn't care. I ran until the tunnel blurred around me and my legs threatened to give out. I found Liv and Jonah at the junction. "Chris is gone," I choked out. "Something took him." Jonah thought I was joking, until he saw the blood smeared across my front. We argued, we panicked. Jonah wanted to go back to rescue Chris. Liv just kept whispering, "It's watching us. It's watching." Then the lights went out. Total darkness, no flicker, no warning, all at once. That was the last time I heard Jonah's voice. There was a wet impact, something heavy hitting the ground. Then silence, then dragging. Liv and I ran. We didn't speak. We just moved, sprinting down corridors neither of us recognized, the tunnels closing in around us. Whatever lived down there, it didn't need light. It knew the way. We came to another stairwell, down again, always down. Eventually we found another chamber, square this time, with dozens of pipes lining the walls and a grating in the floor. Liv collapsed beside me, sobbing quietly. "I saw its face," she said. "I think it was human once." I didn't know what to say. And then it found us. It came through one of the pipes. No warning, no time. Its body folded impossibly, squeezing through an opening no wider than a basketball. Its face. God, its face. The skin was pulled taut, like it had been stretched over a skull too large for it. Its mouth gaped open, but it didn't breathe. It didn't blink. I grabbed Liv and we ran. Again. I don't remember how far, I don't remember how long. Just the pain in my legs, the taste of blood in my mouth. I remember hearing Liv scream behind me, short, cut off. Then silence. I wanted to go back. I did. But I couldn't. I'd already seen what it did to Chris. I couldn't go through that again. Eventually, I saw light, a faint glow ahead, greenish, flickering. I crawled toward it. It was a service panel, half open. Beyond it, the storm drain. The sky. I don't remember escaping. Just the cold water and the feeling of something clawing at my back, trying to pull me down before I could climb free. They found me 2 miles downriver, broken, starving, rambling. I told them everything. The police, the doctors, the orderlies. They called it hysteria. They said I was traumatized, delusional. But I know what I saw. I know they're still down there. And the worst part, that panel, my way out, it was open when I found it, but someone had sealed it from the inside. The little footbridge near Beckett Park was something I'd passed all my life but never crossed. It wasn't that it looked dangerous, though its metal rails were chipped and its wooden boards warped, but there was something about it that made me feel off. Like the ground on either side didn't quite match up, like you'd cross it and not come out where you expected. Nobody ever seemed to be on it either. No kids running across, no couples taking pictures, not even dogs sniffing their way past. Just a small bridge over a dried-up creek, tucked between a cluster of gnarled oaks and empty benches. That summer, my dad started taking me to work again, like he used to when I was little. He ran a maintenance crew for the school district, and since classes were out, most days were quiet and uneventful. I'd hang out in the break room with a comic book and my lunch, trying not to die of boredom. One day I asked if I could eat outside. He was distracted, flipping through work orders. "Where?" "Just out by Beckett," I said. "The little park area." He waved me off. "Sure, be back in an hour." It was a hot, dry day, the kind that made the whole world smell like sunburned dust. I found a shaded spot near the bridge and opened my lunch. Ham sandwich, chips, and a bottle of warm apple juice. That's when I noticed him. A boy, crouched underneath the bridge, just where the shadow swallowed the last few inches of light. He had his arms wrapped around his knees and his head tilted up like he was listening. I called out, nervous but curious. "Hey, you okay?" He didn't answer. I stood, brushing crumbs from my lap. "Do you want some water?" His head tilted slightly, then slowly, so slowly, he stood and stepped forward into the light. His clothes were old, not just dirty, but old-fashioned. His shirt had wooden buttons, and his pants were rolled at the cuffs. His face looked pale and tight, like someone who hadn't eaten in days. But his eyes were bright blue and sharp. Too sharp. He didn't speak. "Do you live around here?" I asked. He nodded once. "Want to sit with me?" He nodded again. We sat in silence for a long time. He watched me eat, but never accepted any food. His presence felt strange, not threatening exactly, but like he was a piece of something bigger I couldn't see. Eventually, I stood and brushed off my hands. "I got to get back." He looked at me, finally speaking. "Don't cross the bridge," he said. His voice was hoarse, like he hadn't used it in years. "Why not?" "Because that's where he lives." I blinked. "Who?" But he was already walking backward into the shadows under the bridge, eyes still on me. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about the boy, about the way his eyes didn't blink, the way his voice made the air feel thinner. Something about him clung to my mind like a burr, itchy and wrong. The next day, I begged to go back to work with Dad. "You actually want to come?" "Again?" he said, eyebrows raised. "I like being around you," I lied. When lunch came, I made my way back to the bridge, hoping he'd be gone. He wasn't. He was sitting at the far end now, just past the halfway point, staring at the ground. "You came back," he said without looking up. "I wanted to ask, what did you mean yesterday? Who lives under the bridge?" His eyes flicked toward me and he smiled without teeth. "He doesn't live under the bridge," he said. "He lives in it." A chill went down my back. "What does that mean?" "Sometimes he lets you cross, sometimes he doesn't." I glanced at the bridge. Just old wood and rusting steel. Nothing unusual. But the boy's voice made me second-guess everything I thought I understood. "Is he real?" The boy looked back down. "I crossed once," he said, "but I didn't come back." "What do you mean? You're right here." "No," he whispered. "That's not me anymore." Something about the words turned my stomach. "Is that why you're under the bridge?" "I'm waiting." "For what?" He looked up at me. "For you." That night I dreamed of the bridge. Only it wasn't a bridge anymore. It was a spine stretched over a yawning chasm. The boards were ribs, the railings, spindly fingers. Something moved beneath it, something with 1,000 teeth and no eyes. It whispered things I couldn't understand but felt in my bones. I woke up screaming. My dad let me stay home the next day. I told myself I was being ridiculous, that the kid was probably just some runaway or homeless kid trying to scare me. That bridges don't eat people, that nightmares are just bad thoughts with costumes. But when the weekend came, I went back. I had to. Beckett Park was empty. Even the birds were silent. The wind didn't move the trees. The bridge loomed in the distance like a promise you don't want to keep. He was there again. Only, he looked worse. His skin was grayer now. His shirt hung off him like wet cloth. His hair looked brittle, like old grass. "You shouldn't be here," he said. "You told me you were waiting for me. I thought maybe you'd stop." "Stop what?" "Coming back." "Why?" He looked at the bridge. "Because he's awake now." The air seemed to pull in on itself. I stepped closer, my hands trembling. "Who is he?" The boy's lip quivered. "He doesn't have a name." "But he knows yours." I froze. "He hears you every time you think about him, every time you speak to me." "Then what do I do?" The boy stepped toward me. "You don't cross the bridge. You never cross the bridge." He put something into my hand. It was small, cold, and hard. A tooth. "I pulled it from his mouth when I still had fingers," he whispered. "Keep it. It might buy you time." I looked down at the tooth. It was long, needle-thin, and etched with strange ridges. When I looked up, the boy was gone. That night I did not sleep. The dreams were worse. The bridge was longer. The teeth were closer. I heard something say my name in a voice that sounded like my own. The next day I tried to throw the tooth away, but when I opened the trash can, it wasn't there. The inside of the bin was a black tunnel, and something moved at the bottom. I dropped the tooth and slammed the lid shut. The next morning, the tooth was on my pillow. I didn't go back to Beckett after that. Not for a long time. I thought I could move on, that if I just stopped thinking about him, he'd go back to sleep. But dreams don't forget you, and neither do bridges. The summer passed, then school, then another summer. 3 years later, they tore the bridge down. I remember watching the bulldozer idle beside the creek bed, the operator waiting for the foreman's signal. I thought about screaming, about warning them not to do it. But the sun was bright and the sky was blue, and I told myself I was crazy. The bridge snapped like it had bones. They hauled away the pieces, but when they dug out the foundation, they found bones that didn't belong to any animal. Dozens of them, all small, all human. The workers said nothing. The park was closed, the creek filled with mud. I tried not to dream after that. But sometimes when I drive past the spot, I see him. Not the boy, not anymore. Just a shape in the shadows, waiting. And I can still feel it in my hand, that tiny, needle-thin tooth. It doesn't want to leave me. Not yet. When I was 13, I looked into someone's window for the first and very last time. We lived in a run-down apartment complex just off Eastbury Boulevard, the kind with algae in the pool and dead moths forever stuck to the light fixtures in the stairwells. The walls were paper-thin, the locks were loose in their hinges, and every other night you could hear someone crying in the walls. My mom always said it was the plumbing. My older cousin Trent said it was worse. We lived in apartment A. Apartment E was across the lot, 3rd floor, overlooking the overgrown dog-walking area with the broken chain-link fence. A girl moved in there in June. I noticed her the first time when I was biking back from the store and saw her on the balcony, barefoot, sipping something from a mug. She had dark hair, almost black, and wore these baggy overalls with one strap unbuckled. She looked straight at me as I passed. Not through me. At me. I looked down, embarrassed. "You seen the girl in E yet?" Trent asked later, popping the tab on his orange soda and stretching out across our ratty couch. She's hot. Weird, though. Weird how? He grinned like he had a secret. She stares too long, like she's waiting for you to blink first. Kinda creepy. But I don't know, maybe that's your thing. Trent was 17 and fearless. He got suspended twice and shoplifted more times than I could count. He'd call me Mouse and laugh when I flinched. I hated him, but I also copied everything he did. So when he said he was going to climb the maintenance ladder to peek into her window that night, I didn't stop him. "You coming or what?" he whispered, already halfway up the metal rungs. It was nearly midnight. We were both barefoot on the cracked pavement, and I remember how cold it was, like the air had gone stale. I shook my head. "That's messed up," he snorted. "Don't be a pussy. You'll thank me." I didn't thank him. I went back inside and tried not to think about what he'd see, or what I'd missed. But the next morning, Trent wasn't home. His mom thought he'd gone to a friend's house. By the third day, she called the police. I kept my mouth shut. He was probably hiding somewhere, I told myself. He'd done it before. He was probably just messing with everyone, but deep down, I knew better. And still, I watched her window. Her name was Celia. I learned that from the manager who mentioned it when fixing our thermostat. Girl in E. Quiet one. Paid up front for the year. Barely says a word. Bit of a stare on her, though, huh? I nodded. I didn't say I'd seen her balcony light flicker on at 2 a.m. almost every night, or that sometimes she stood on the railing barefoot, arms out like she was trying to catch the wind. Once I thought I saw something moving behind her, shifting shadows in her room, but I told myself it was a curtain. That was how it started, with little excuses. Then, in late July, I climbed the ladder. I don't know why I did it. Maybe I thought I'd find Trent's shoe on the roof, or maybe I wanted to see what he saw. Maybe it was curiosity, or maybe it was something else, something already working on me. The third-floor windows didn't lock right. Hers was cracked open, just an inch, enough to let in air. I pressed my eye to the gap and looked inside. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor in a circle of candles. She wore nothing but a white slip, and her hands were smeared with something dark. Paint or mud, I thought at first. Her eyes were closed and she was humming. Low and melodic. The sound made my teeth hurt. I started to pull away. Then she opened her eyes. I didn't think she'd seen me, but she tilted her head just a bit and smiled. I scrambled down the ladder, heart pounding so loud I thought it would wake the whole complex. I told myself I imagined it, that I'd looked too long and the candlelight played tricks. That's what I said. But my dreams told me something different. I saw her every night after that. Behind my eyelids, her smile stretching too wide, her skin starting to peel. 2 weeks later, Trent was found, or what was left of him. They said it was a coyote, or maybe drugs. They never really settled on a story. His body was found half buried behind the dog park, ribs cracked open like a cage, stomach empty, skin pale and dry as paper. His eyes were gone. Just gone. At the funeral, I overheard someone say, "He looked like he'd been sucked dry." I couldn't eat for days, and still I watched her window. My mom tried to move us after that, said she didn't feel safe, said she had nightmares. But we were broke, and the lease wasn't up until December. So we stayed, and I kept watching. The next time I saw inside her window, Celia was dancing. Slow, like underwater. She twirled around the room, arms limp at her sides, her hair fanning out behind her. Her face was blank, not peaceful, empty, like something had scooped her out and was wearing her skin. I didn't mean to go back the next night, but I did. That time she was peeling something from her arm. I thought it was a bandage at first, but it kept going. Long, wet strips of skin curling from her wrist like fruit peels. Underneath was something wrong, not red like blood, but yellowish and veiny, like old meat. She licked the skin before she dropped it into a bowl. I nearly fell off the ladder. I told myself it was a trick, a prank, special effects, anything but real. But then I started coughing. It began as a tickle, then blood, then something else, something gray and stringy like hair but thicker. I yanked it from my throat and flushed it before my mom could see. I stopped sleeping. I stopped talking. I stopped eating. My bones stuck out. My skin itched. My nails turned black at the edges, and still I watched her window. One night I woke up to knocking, not on the door, on the glass. I sat up, my mouth dry. The window over my bed rattled. A shadow shifted behind it. Celia. She was outside on the fire escape, smiling. One hand pressed to the window, her fingers splayed, dripping with something dark and slick. Her eyes were huge, pupils blown wide like eclipses. She mouthed something. I didn't understand at first. Then she said it again. "Come home," I screamed. My mom came running. When she flipped on the light, the window was clean. No blood, no shadow, just the sound of crickets. But when she hugged me, I smelled it, the sweet, sick rot. I tried to avoid her after that. I really did. I stopped going outside. I kept my blinds closed. I even threw out the ladder. But it didn't matter. She came to me anyway. One night, she slipped into our apartment like smoke. I don't know how. I just woke up and she was there, sitting cross-legged on the floor like she'd always belonged. She had something in her lap, my cousin's shirt. She was sewing buttons onto it, not buttons, eyes. Human eyes. "You're sick," I whispered, tears streaming down my face. She looked up at me, calm as a pond. "I'm better," she said. "You could be too." I shook my head. "You killed him," she smiled. Number I unwrapped him. That night I ran. I ran out of the apartment, barefoot and gasping. I ran until my lungs felt like glass. I told a cop at the gas station everything. About Celia, about Trent, about the skin, the eyes, the rot. They called my mom, told her I'd had a trauma response, told her I was hallucinating. Apartment E was empty when they checked it, scrubbed clean, like no one had ever lived there at all. We moved 2 weeks later. I never saw her again. But sometimes when I close my eyes, I still hear her humming. I still see her twirling. I still taste blood in the back of my throat. And once, just once, last winter I got a package in the mail. No return address. Inside was a piece of fabric, Trent's shirt, with one button sewn on, just one, and it blinked. Marrowhurst Psychogenic Research Center, confidential file. Subject, patient number 1138. Clearance level, 4. Status, internally redacted treatment protocol. Patient, not 1138. Name, redacted at request of legal department. Alias, Gray, It, Stitchmouth. Daub, unknown. Age, 16 to 18, estimated. Sex, non-identified. Subject, resists all gender labels. Diagnosis, severe DID, ritual psychosis, adaptive sociopathy, cannibalistic impulse disorder, CID. Intake. Date, November 3rd, 2021. Incident leading to intake. Law enforcement found subject bound in fetal position inside a crawl space. Surrounding property was charred. 6 deceased. Evidence of partial consumption. Behavioral pattern. Subject does not speak unless spoken to. Often responds in nursery rhymes or archaic Latin. Subject exhibits night wandering, wall scratching, flesh picking, and is prone to constructing small figures from hair, string, and nail fragments. Do not allow unsupervised interaction between 1138 and any other patients, especially 1142 or 1156. See Incident File 09-7X. Daily Log, Nurse Ray Harlan. Date, November 6th, 2021. Subject, 1138, refused breakfast again. Eyes remain dilated beyond natural range, pupils nearly eclipsing iris. Whispered, "I stitched it shut so it wouldn't crawl out again," when asked if they were cold. Found bird bones under mattress, arranged in a symbol I didn't recognize. I asked maintenance to remove it. Their smile is wrong. Too wide. The scars curve back behind their ears like someone tried to split the face open from both ends. Incident report number 097X subjects involved. Number 1138, Gray. Number 1142, Jonah. Staff, Orderly Merrick. Summary. At approximately 03:42 a.m., night staff responded to unauthorized movement in Sector C. Subject number 1138 was found inside the room of number 1142, sitting atop the latter's chest and placing sewing needles into his gums. Subject said, "We're making a second mouth." The other one keeps screaming. Jonah, number 1142, was declared brain dead 72 hours later. Autopsy showed threads woven through cerebellar tissue. Notes: Orderly Merrick was terminated following suspicion of allowing door override access in exchange for a favor. Subject number 1138 is not to be referred to by any name. Even Gray triggers episodes. Use only subject. Increase sedative dosage to 15 milligrams, haloperidol every 4 hours. No ECT. Last attempt resulted in blackout across Sector D and loss of 1 staff member, unaccounted for. Excerpt from letter intercepted from unknown to Dr. Alina Rusk, head psychiatrist. They call them tulpas, doctor. Thought forms. You give them enough pain, enough belief, and they stop being ideas. They start breathing. Gray was made, not born. You think you're treating a child. You're treating a knife sharpened by rape, fire, and hunger. Don't call it a patient. Call it what it is. A consequence. Patient file 1156. Caleb. Memo. Separation from subject. 1138. Mandatory. Caleb's fingernails were found embedded in the wall of his isolation unit, spelling, "He's inside my skin now." Audio recording from cell 19. B captured 27 minutes of whispering in an untraceable dialect. It wasn't Caleb's voice. Caleb no longer recognizes mirrors. He attempts to peel his reflection off the glass. Separation must be absolute. Proximity results in dissociation and attempted ingestion of own tongue. The two cannot be in the same sector. Full lockdown protocol in effect. Audio transcript therapy session with number 138. Transcriber note. Parts of recording were corrupted. Date: November 15th, 2021. Dr. Rusk. Do you remember what happened in the fire, Gray? Pause. Number 138. No fire, only opening. A hole. In me. In them. In here. Points to eyes. Dr. Rusk. You were found with multiple bodies, partially eaten. Do you remember eating them? She 1138. They tasted like guilt, like mother's ring and father's breath. I chewed slow so I could learn their memories. That's how you take power back, you know? Bite by bite. Dr. Rusk. Who taught you that? Yeah, it's 1138. He did. Dr. Rusk. Who is he? 1138. Leans in, whispers. You're wearing his teeth. End of audio. Corruption beyond timestamp. 1444. Staff notice. Emergency lockdown date. December 2nd, 2021. To all personnel from Admin Division at 0307 a.m. Subject number 1138 breached containment. 12 casualties. Sector D burned. Subject was witnessed crawling on the ceiling, inverted, blood trailing in 4 directions. At least one staff member was flayed and left, arranged in the fetal position, cradling a bundle of stitched hair and teeth. Do not pursue. Do not engage. All surviving patients are to be sedated and relocated immediately. Subject number 1138 has been reclassified. Class: Phoenix Sigma. Status: uncontainable final letter, unsent, from Dr. Alina Rusk to redacted. I should have walked away. The first time I saw Gray, I saw my daughter's eyes. I think that's what it wanted. You warned me about the facility. You said it wasn't a hospital. You said it was a meat grinder. They made it worse, you know. With the pills, the restraints, the silence. Gray was just the wound. We kept reopening it, stuffing it with protocol and expecting it to heal. I keep dreaming of their voice. It doesn't whisper anymore. It sings. The lullaby's different now. It ends with screaming. Update. Subject number 1138. Deceased. Eyewitness accounts conflict. Body never recovered. Facility shut down. Grounds declared condemned. All files seized. But across 4 counties, a name keeps showing up. Stitchmouth. Children whisper it in playgrounds. Mothers find thread in their babies' cribs. Nurses report patients chewing silently in the dark. Something got out. Something is still hungry.